Good morning. Welcome to Just for Today, a time of eclectic reading, sharing of perspectives, meditation, and prayer. I'm Reverend Rafe Ellis, Senior Minister and Spiritual Leader of the newly joined Centers for Spiritual Living Communities of Columbia and Greater Baltimore. Today is November 19th. And this morning I'm reading from Living the Science of Mind by Ernest Holmes. And I'm reading from page 252, starting with the second paragraph. The body must be properly cared for, and we should come to understand body-mind relationships. In addition to this, we must forget that humanity is primarily a spirit. We must never forget that humanity is primarily a spiritual being with a mind and a body. It is only when these three are brought together that we can hope to have health, happiness, and success. A person in our field would be deceiving themselves if they refuse to recognize that something could be wrong with the body and the mind, even though nothing could be wrong with the spirit. This would be saying peace when there is no peace, and we must avoid such an assertion. The spiritual mind healer recognizes the need for physical care. If they are intelligent, they will never deny or seek to minimize the splendid work being done in the fields of medicine, surgery, and psychiatry. But they do have something to add to these. They have the assurance that humanity is one with the living spirit. Wow. I love this whole section. I'm just, in all transparency, I reference it frequently because for me it is the antidote to spiritual bypass. It's actually titled "Let Us Not Fool Ourselves," and it's just a section where Holmes addresses the connection between our humanity and our spirituality, that it's not an either or, it's not even a yes and, it's one thing. And it's our mental perception, it's our perspective that separates our human expression from our divinity. As I understand these teachings, we are divinity expressing as human. That if everything is one thing, if everything is God, spirit, whatever we call it, then that one thing is always expressing itself as all of these multiplicity of forms and functions and experience, because its desire is to express. And so that's what it does. It expresses. It doesn't express separate from itself. It expresses as itself in a multiplicity of forms. Now, I get it. That's hard to wrap our low human heads around sometimes. That's been the challenge, that's been the dance, if you will, of metaphysics. I think for all of us is because our amygdala separates us. It's a biological function for our physical safety here on planet Earth. And when I remember that the amygdala is also part of the creative process, so that spirit, divinity, God can express itself in human form, then I had a different experience of oneness. Then I had a different understanding of individualized but not separate. And so I encourage you to study to argue with these teachings, because it's in the wrestling match, it's in the argument that we find answers. And we can't find those if we're not even willing to get in the ring with our own thoughts, right? um, that's the analogy that works for me. I'm sure you'll find one that works for you. Ultimately, it's, are we willing to really do the work that Holmes talks about in Sermon by the Sea, when he talks about, find me someone who has resolved, who has reconciled the discomfort of their own soul, and I will show you someone who is for something and against nothing. That in order to get to that place of being for something and against nothing, we have to reconcile the discomfort of our own soul. The discomfort of our own soul, as I understand it, is the activity, the playing out of thoughts of separation. And as I'm able to reconcile those, I am able to reconcile the discomfort of my own soul, the activity of creation, because it comes into an experience of unification, which has always been the truth of our being. So we can't deny what's happening here on planet Earth and claim wholeness, because they're one and the same. And so I invite you to maybe take this consideration into our time of meditation. That what is available, what is tangible, what is right there in your awareness right now, to shift and to ask the infinite as you how you can best shift that. I promise you, you will get answers. You may not get the answer you want, but you will get an answer. So let's take this. Actually, I'm going to read these couple of paragraphs one more time, and then we'll take that into our meditation. The body must be properly cared for, and we should come to understand body-mind relationships. In addition to this, we must never forget that humans are primarily a spiritual being with a mind and a body. It is only when these three are brought together that we can hope to have health, happiness, and success. A person in our field would be deceiving themselves if they refused to recognize that something could be wrong with the body and the mind, even though nothing could be wrong with the spirit. This would be saying peace when there is no peace, and we must avoid such an assertion. The spiritual mind healer recognizes the need for physical care. If they are intelligent, they will never deny or seek to minimize the splendid work being done in the field of medicine and surgery and psychiatry. But they do have something to add to these. They have the assurance that humanity is one with the living spirit. So as I lean into this moment, as I breathe deeper into that inner sanctuary, I recognize there is only one infinite, ever-present source, one substance, one creation, unified within itself, self-existent, meaning it was never created out of anything else. It simply has always been. It is. Has always been, is now, and is into eternity. That one substance that simply desires to express itself. Infinite possibility expressing in multiplicity, yet never separate from itself. Known by many, many, many names. Some call it God, some call it love, some call it peace, power, great mystery. Whatever we call it, it is. It simply is. And knowing that I am created out of it, by it, that I am it expressing itself as this divine idea that is me, I know that I must be one with it. And as I know this is true about all of creation, I know that I must be one with every expression of it that I call creation, that there is no separation. There is no separation between mind, body, and spirit. They are simply aspects of one expressing. And that the physical expression allows me to know spirit differently. Not the absence of spirit, but a different expression of spirit. And so I claim and affirm that there is a conscious, intentional, aware attention to the body, to spirit manifesting in the form of humanity, beyond my own physical body, to the body of humanity, to recognize, to uplift, to stay focused on the oneness of humanity within a wholeness of creation. To identify, to see beyond behavior, to that divine spark, to care for each individualized expression, each body, and to care for the whole body of humanity. To do all that I can in thought, in action, in supporting these things called policies that are the human expression of how we manage humanity. To bring all of that into alignment with spiritual principle. To set aside any personal agenda of any level of separation, and to stand boldly and firmly with conviction and clarity, placing principle before personality, claiming the wholeness of creation until it becomes manifest in form. Caring for every expression of creation equally. finding that common ground, that connecting thread, and refusing to be moved by appearance, to be steadfast in my commitment to the whole. I claim and affirm this as my individualized reality and reality for the whole, because what I treat for myself, I treat for the whole, because there's only one of us here. And I'm grateful. I'm grateful for the activity of law, the doer within this creative process that simply responds, reflecting back to each and every expression of creation what we are holding in consciousness, in awareness, in our beliefs, in our thoughts, empowering us to shift and move closer into alignment. Grateful for the instant activity of law that offers no filter, that offers no reframe, simply responds and makes it so. And so I know it's already done. And so I can release. I can release any doubt, any thought, any belief that would in any way hinder or minimize the full expression or experience of the Word made manifest. I let it all go because I know it is already done. And so I move into this day with my eyes and my ears and my heart wide open to experience what law has already made manifest. Ashe. Shalom. Aho. Amen. Amen. And so it is. Namaste.